Hi, Madonna, Louise, Veronica Ciccone here.
When will you understand that I am a person and not a thing?
Look it up.
Do something else. Do my eyebrows.
Better to say, am I being true to myself? And is this what I want to say? And have I expressed myself the way I want to express myself? I mean, that's what it's all about.
Hi, this is Carrie Ann Inaba, and you're listening to MLVC, the Madonna podcast.
Hey guys, it's Tony, and did you know that aloha means hello and goodbye?
Oh, yes. And hey, everybody, this is Stefan. Welcome to the Season 3 finale of MLVC, the Madonna podcast, your place for all things Madonna, Louise, Veronica Ciccone. So today is a big show. I couldn't think of anyone better to join us for our Season 3 finale today other than today's guest. So I'm super excited to be able to say this. Today on the show, we are joined by none other than Carrie Ann Inaba.
Wow.
Aloha, Carrie Ann.
Aloha, you guys. Thank you so much for having me, Tony, Stefan. It's so nice to meet you both.
So great to meet you. We're so excited to have you on. So get ready for the questions.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
I'm a little caffeinated, and I was like, don't have caffeine before you talk to Carrie Ann because you're just gonna be talking a mile a minute. So
I love it. Let's do a mile a minute.
So Carrie Ann, how's it going in LA? I'm assuming that's where you're calling from, correct?
I am indeed calling from LA, and the weather's beautiful. We've had a weird season. It's been like hot and cold, but today is absolutely LA weather, and the reason why we all moved here.
Exactly.
well, I know you're a busy woman, so we're not going to take up too much time doing this, but Tony, do you want to give Carrie Ann a little introduction to our audience?
A proper introduction indeed.
Why,
Even though
you.
her reputation precedes her, here's a small overview of Carrie Ann's career so far. She's a dancer, choreographer, philanthropist, Emmy-nominated talk show host who is also recognized for her 30-season run as a judge on ABC's Emmy Award-winning Dancing with the Stars. She started out her career as a singer in Japan, introduced herself to American audiences as one of the original Fly Girls on the sketch comedy series In Living Color on Fox. Madonna fans will know her from touring with Madonna in the iconic Girlie Show. Carrie Ann was also co-host and moderator on the Emmy Award-winning daytime talk show The Talk, and she recently started Carrie Ann Conversations, which is an online wellness magazine that aims to help readers and viewers live a happier, healthier, and more evolved life. Welcome, Carrie Ann.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
And I don't know, Tony, let's just get started.
Yeah.
We have a lot of questions for you, Carrie Ann. So
I'm ready.
Before we go down the Girlie Show road, let's start at the beginning of your career. I'm dying to find out some highlights and lowlights of what it's like to go to work and train in Japan to be a pop artist as a teenager.
It's a surreal experience, okay, to say the least. You know what was interesting about when I went to Japan was I was 18, just scouted right out of high school. They used to come to Hawaii and look for girls to kind of scout, and they would take them to Japan and kind of repackage them and then distribute them. You know, like what branding is now all across the United States. That's what they've been doing for years. I was 18. That was a long time ago. And, it was amazing though, because they taught me that the business is a business. And I think I'm very fortunate because I never had high expectations of sort of like, I know the difference between when it's time for artistry and when it's time to do business, which is meeting people's needs, right? And an exchange of energy. And artistry is really more self-expression, right? And it doesn't matter about the business side of it. And so I think it was in some ways very powerful for me, but also heartbreaking because I thought I was going there and they were going to develop my skills, but they were like, no, just sing. Oh, you're a little off key. We'll just pitch correct. I'm like, no, I want to get it right. And it was hard on me. So I actually left after 2 years. I decided, you know what, this isn't for me. And I walked into the office of Virgin Records and I was like, hey guys, I'm this so clueless. Like you're young and you're clueless, right? I'm like, hey guys, I'm not really happy. So I think I'm going to go home. And I think they were just dumbfounded that I did that. And they were like, okay. And I was like, great. So I got out of my contract and I went back to the United States and I lived in Southern California and I started studying choreography.
So just before we go back to what it was like in California when you got back, so what was the output like? Like what kind of music did they have you, like was it pop music? Was it like that like early, like early hip hop that was, hybrid of dance music?
Gosh, I wish it was early hip hop. I mean, it was super poppy doppy dop dop dop. It was like poppy choppy poppy poppy pop. And one of the songs was actually produced by Kenny Loggins and his team. So it was kind of cool. I actually learned a lot about music from his team. It was an honor to work with some of those musicians. His studio musicians are like big names, and it was an honor. So it was cool.
So once you're back in the United States, you began working with Alex Magno, who was a friend of the podcast and former guest. What brought you two close together as collaborators? He's got amazing things to say about you and your work. Okay,
Alex is my soul brother. We used to date. We went out together for a long time. He was like one of the loves of my life. Yeah, one of the true loves of my life. And he's a very special, artistic, talented man. And we met right after I moved back to LA. Or California, and I was driving up to LA to take dance classes. He used to teach at a studio called Debbie Reynolds, and any dancer knows that old school studio. Sadly, it's no longer. But Alex was just like, I used to choreograph before I met Alex, but when I met Alex, I kind of stepped back from choreographing because I realized his work was so profound and it met my like spiritual creative needs. So I just studied with him for years and years, and I was like his assistant. And then there's a great story about how he ended up on Madonna's tour.
Yeah, when we had him on the show last season, he sort of went into how he came to be on Girlie Show, and he mentioned that you and Luca Tomasini and Sebastian Lacaze all sort of helped workshop a number that ended up getting him the job.
Oh, there's more to the story.
Oh, please.
Please, feel free.
Are you ready?
That's the thing. We speak to all these different people, and they sort of like, they give their version of the story, and then it's fun to sort of like have it come around and hear other people's
It's like a Madonna
views.
Rashomon.
Okay, so this is the best place. I can't wait to share the story with you. Okay, so at the time, I was assisting Alex, and I was in all his like videos. You know how we always take class and we're videotaping ourselves. So I was all over his videos. And then I guess I was working on something, another project, and he said, he was in Japan. He's like, can you submit my reel for me? Right? So I said, yeah. So I submitted his reel to be a choreographer for Madonna's tour. And I was all over the reel. And so that's how I got the job, because Christopher Ciccone saw me and was like, we want you. Unfortunately, we don't want this choreographer. We don't want Alex, but we want you. And I was like, no. And they were having auditions in New York. And so I was like, and they're like, we will fly you out to New York. We want to see you. And I was like, I mean, this is a dream come true, right? So I'm like, oh my God, but Alex is in Japan and I can't get in touch with him. And I can't do that to a friend. So I told them, I'm sorry, I can't go, because I wasn't representing myself. I was representing my friend Alex. And if you don't want him, I don't feel right coming. Like, that's just wrong. That's bad karma. Yeah. So I was like, no. Heartbroken. I can't believe I just said no. And so, I mean, totally heartbroken. So then, fortunately, they decided after they did their auditions in New York that they would come to LA. And so he said, we're coming to LA. Will you come? And by then I had had a chance to get in touch with Alex. It's not like now where we can just talk to anybody at any time. Right? With WhatsApp. We didn't have WhatsApp back then. So Alex was like, no, please go do the job. Go audition. And I was like, okay. So I went and I auditioned, and they asked if we would shave our heads. And I said, yes, of course, I will shave my head for you, whatever you want. And the audition process was amazing, and I got the job. Now, then cut to, we're doing the show, we're rehearsing, or we're actually just in rehearsals, a grueling process. We rehearsed longer than we were on tour for this show. And that's amazing. That's what I love about Madonna. And the choreographer that they had used, they were looking for something a little different. And they were asking us all, who do you think? What do you think? And I remember I went to Madonna. I said, please hire Alex. Like, he's so right for this job. Like, there is nobody better for this job. And I said, if you don't like him, you can fire me.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah, because I just believed in him.
Put yourself on the line.
I did. I was like, please hire him. Like, please, he's so perfect for what you're looking for, what you didn't get from the choreographer before, who is brilliant in his own right. It just wasn't matching up. It's just, is it a fit or not, right? And Keith Young wasn't giving them what they wanted. And I said, please. I begged her, and she gave him a chance, and it worked out. And then I got it was so much fun, because then we got to workshop a number for her, and I got to be Madonna. And that was the best moment in my life.
Well, so not only did you have to shave your hair for that, but you also had to be topless. What was your reaction when Madonna said you had to be topless?
Yes, Madonna. What else, Madonna? That's what you say to Madonna, right? So I'm a young dancer, finally having the opportunity to work with her idol. I was like, whatever you want. I kind of love the idea of doing topless because as an Asian woman, it's sort of an unexpected role for an Asian woman to play. And I thought, I love breaking down boundaries and I love breaking down stereotypes. Sure. And I think shaving my head and being topless was part of what makes that job still to this day my favorite job.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing you come down the pole and thinking, oh, so it's like this now. Okay, Madonna, let's do it. You know. So did Madonna and Christopher Ciccone have like a mission statement for the dancers and the crew about what the show was, what the theme of the show was, and where you guys were going with it?
Yes, the theme was androgyny, right? Where we were breaking down boundaries, like one is not separate from the other. We are all one. And I believe in that message so much in so many ways. I mean, race, gender, all of it. We're all one people. Yeah. Every one of us is completely their own person and very different from the next person, yet we are all the same, right? And so whether we're talking about gender or race or anything that separates us, this is what I love so much about the message of the Girlie Show. We are all one.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that everything that a female dancer did, a male dancer would also do, and vice versa.
Right.
There was no designation. Well, except with I have to correct myself. Carlton and MG Gong and Fever.
Right.
That was decidedly masculine, but
But even then, like we all played each other's roles, right?
Yeah.
So like at the beginning of the number, I'm riding on top of Michael, right? And then Michael's riding on top of Carlton later in the same number, right? And that's kind of the beauty is we all shaved our heads for that reason so that you couldn't differentiate. You wouldn't be distracted by what is normally considered gender ideals, right? Old, outdated ideals.
So you, as everyone knows, you opened the show by descending probably one of the longest stripper poles we've ever seen. We've heard some of the other guys from the show talk about your champion athleticism.
Yeah, Carlton is still shook.
Yeah, they were like, I don't know how Carrie Ann did that every night, but tell us about the training for that epic pole dance entrance, because we were told that when the shows were outside stadiums, that sometimes it was like super freezing cold.
Yes. I mean, yeah. Okay. The coming down in a G-string, the 55-foot pole was a feat. And I actually had to train with circus trainers. So our rehearsals would start at 9. And I know you know this, that if you're a minute late, it's $100, right? That's Madonna. She's like, we're not going to be late. So we would start right at 9. But I was at the circus trainer's yard at 5 in the morning before rehearsals, learning how to do pole work. So I had to learn how to do aerial stunts, right? How to fall, all that stuff, and build up the upper body strength. And then I also worked with a stripper from a club called Deja Vu, which is like one of the most well-known stripper clubs in the world. And, you know, I did this well before Jennifer Lopez did it in Hustlers. I was doing pole work way before Jennifer Lopez. And it was so amazing. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, ever done. And then I fell. I don't know if you guys know, but in rehearsals, I fell. So I was wearing a safety attached to my thong. So that's going to be a big wedgie. If I know. Right?
I always wondered about that.
Yeah.
I was like, what's that going to do?
Exactly. Thank you. I'm like, who thought this through? Because this is not really so smart. I'm going to have some long legs if I fall. But before I had the safety, I actually slipped on the pole. Thankfully, I was... I actually had this. It was the day I got the safety. I slipped upside down and the safety slipped through my shoulder and cut me open. So I had to take a few days off. And it was interesting because when I did take the time off, they were like, oh, you just take your time. You're going to be, we're going to save your spot for you. And then someone called me from rehearsal, my dear friend, and told me that somebody else was getting on the pole trying to take my spot, which is okay. You can't blame anybody because that's how, we're all dancers struggling, right? So somebody was trying to take my spot and I was like, I'm coming back in. So I came back the next day and I was like, nope, I will work through this. And to this day, I still have pain, but it's okay. No. It's worth it. It's worth it. It was awesome.
So I'm curious, other than your pole dance entrance, do you have any favorite numbers that you were always looking forward to perform every night at the Girlie Show?
I love the encores.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love the encores. I love doing the My Fair Lady kind of look.
Justify My Love.
Justify My Love. And that was so awesome because we got to actually try on the original outfits from the film. They brought them in these containers. Yeah, they brought them in these containers. It was like, it just felt like, I don't know, that moment I remember you could smell old Hollywood in the rehearsal studio, and the pieces were kind of falling apart. And then Dolce & Gabbana, they remade them for us, right? Because they did the styling for the show, right? And it was just such I don't know what. It just felt like, wow, this is what real stars do. And so that was magical. And then, of course, she puts the spin on it because we had a little orgy in the middle. But And then I like Bye Bye Baby, of course, because that was me and Madonna. And that was sort of, I have to tell you, that number kind of epitomized our relationship on the road together. We had a love-hate relationship. In my poster at the end, she called me she's, I love you, my thorn in my side.
Well, I wanted to ask you, Carrie Ann, about Bye Bye Baby. So that was first performed for the MTV Video Music Awards. Mm-hmm. So tell us what that was like to premiere, this set piece from the Girlie Show to a global audience. And also, what was the reaction that you got to people that knew that you were going to go on tour with Madonna and be like, wow, that's what you're doing?
Dream come true moments. Those are those moments. I remember the lights came up. We were sitting in the back and the lights came up on us. And it was, the Girlie Show never performed in Los Angeles. We never came to Los Angeles. So I never got to really perform ever again for my friends or my colleagues. So that moment performing at the MTV Awards was a big moment because it felt like I have arrived as a performer amongst my peers. Like I saw people in the audience that I knew. It was so exciting. I'm forever grateful to Madonna for giving us all that opportunity to perform at the MTV Music Awards. And and it's there forever. Like it was recorded on film, and that's so awesome. I wish I had longer hair, but that's okay.
So as you know, we've spoken to Alex Magno and Luca Tomasini and Michael Gong. And tell us, was there like a tribal aspect to the dance troupe in the Girlie Show? Because you guys looked like you had been dancing together forever.
Well, you know what? There was a lot of us that had been dancing together forever. We had done some work with Alex. Alex and I used to have a dance company, and we all danced together in the Persona Dance Company. And Luca, and Sebastian, right? Michael. Less so, but once we all came together, like Michael and I felt like brother and sister immediately. He just felt special. And Angela, I had known because how did I know Angela? The dance world in LA is not that large back then because there weren't that many great studios, right? So if you took Alex's class, there was a certain tribe of us. We were the tribe that wasn't so interested in commerciality. We were more interested in like the primal aspect of dancing and like releasing. Alex really choreographed for your soul. It wasn't about steps as much as it was like releasing the passion and all of that. And I think that's what made the Girlie Show, I think, very, very special along with Christopher Cicconi's amazing directing.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that even then, as a teenager seeing the Girlie Show, one of the reasons I love Madonna so much too is that she presented diversity in a way that no one had at that time, and also without calling attention to it. It's like, well, here's what the world looks like, but I'm not going to tell you, that about it because you're supposed to already know.
Right.
So you were inducted into the Asian Hall of Fame for being a Trailblazing AAPI member. How did it feel to have that kind of diversity and representation on the Girlie Show, especially during a time when it wasn't really happening anywhere else,
Well, first of all, I love that you say that. I love that you notice that. And I think for me, because if I am cast, that means somebody is being inclusive, right? If you think about it, right? So most of my career, like my Fly Girl days also, which was before Madonna, that was a multicultural cast, right?
Yeah.
It was very diverse. And the whole show in Living Color was diverse, right? And I never thought anything of it because that was like my introduction. And so when I did Madonna's tour at the time, I don't even think I noticed that we were kind of being inclusive ahead of its time because I just come from that and I think that way, right? I come from Hawaii where I'm not a minority. So I've never had to really face that in that way. And so it wasn't until way after that I could look back at Madonna's Girlie Show and go, wow, there was so much happening there about her statements about the world, you know, and we never brought it up. It wasn't a point in rehearsals to be inclusive. We just were. And that's what Madonna is, because she knows what's going on in the world, right? She always knows what's going on in the world. And she always has something to say about it. Sometimes it's in your face and sometimes it's a little more subtle.
So how do you think it's changed? I mean, we still have a long way to go, but how do you think it's changed since you began your career in the late 80s?
I'm happy to see more people who look like me. You know, I know that as I was starting and going through my career, I was one of the few Asians on TV doing something other than maybe acting, you know, and kind of setting my path in other realms. And that's how we solve the problem of inclusivity in television is we show people in real life that there's many people of all different cultures, all different backgrounds, doing many different things, and they do it slightly differently. So it's about telling our stories. So that's why, like, your podcast is so helpful too, because we can tell our stories. Like, you're giving me a voice to tell my story. Yes, I'm an Asian American who's been on television, but I'm also from Hawaii. And I've also had this like wild, crazy dance career, but I'm also like this judge on ABC, which is very family friendly. And like, you know, I think it's important to hear the stories and the levels of diversity within our own selves and share that with people as well. Right. No, but I am happy. We are making progress. I see more and more Asians everywhere. I see more and more AAPIs, Pacific Islanders, and all sorts of people everywhere. I'm beginning to see what looks like the real world on television.
Yeah, it's silly when networks or movies or whatever it is doesn't represent what the real world looks like. As gay men, Tony and I are constantly talking about how the fact that like we grew up and we didn't see gay representation on television
or
and
gay Latin representation.
And how like important it is to sort of, I'm so happy for the younger generation now because there is so many, like you hear of stories of people, you know, young kids coming out at 10, 12 years old, like they know who they are. And I'm like, oh my God, that's phenomenal that they are knowing themselves that much.
I agree. I mean, look at JoJo Siwa on Dancing with the Stars. I mean, just really paving a pathway. And I think she is and she isn't, right? Because actually people have been paving their own pathways in their own life for many years. And what's just great is now networks are starting to understand that people like to see themselves on TV. It makes that's what makes them tune in. And so I think the networks are really starting to understand that people want to see the real life stories of people out there. What's really happening.
I have to shout out at ABC because, you know, when Ugly Betty came on, it stopped me in my tracks. I was like, oh my God, I wish I'd had this when I was a kid. I needed this, you know, and here we are.
I get it. I know, me too. Like I had Pat Morita to look up to, right? From Happy Days. And that's it. I'm like, who else looks like an Asian person on TV? There's only Pat Morita.
So you brought up Dancing with the Stars. That's a perfect segue because we were gonna talk about that. Before anything else, I have a personal note. My mom got me into watching Dancing with the Stars. It was a way for me and her to bond since we didn't live in the same city. So we'd always, whenever we'd be able to talk to each other, we'd be like, oh, did you watch Dancing with the Stars? Aww. So of course, when I went to LA a couple years ago, I made sure that I attended a taping in person. There were 2 seats behind you. And they grabbed me and one other guy and they put us behind you. And I was like, oh my God, my mom's going to see me sitting behind Carrie Ann Inaba. This is so exciting. And then we got pulled because your friends showed up who were running late. And we got positioned all the way in the back. And I was like, oh, damn it.
Damn it. Like, I'm so sorry.
I was like, this is too good to be true. I'm like, Carrie Ann, there's no way we're sitting directly behind Carrie Ann Inaba the whole show. And we didn't. But,
I'm so sorry. My friends, how rude of them to show up late, first of all, but then also to take your seats. That's not okay. That is not okay.
But I have to say, being able to watch that show done live, I was amazed at the artistry and technique that's on display, not with just the dancers, but with the crew and all of the judges and everyone working on that show shot live as it's happening. I was like, this is a circus and so much is going on. you're such a great energy on the show. I think at least once an episode, I end up crying because of how emotional all of the dancers' stories are. And like sometimes I see you cry, and that makes me cry.
Yes.
How did Dancing with the Stars come into your life?
Oh, wow. Dancing with the Stars came into my life. I was actually trying to make the switch from a choreographer. I was doing a lot of reality shows and being the on-camera choreographer and moving into producing. So I told my agent, hey, if you see anything like that maybe I could produce on, would you submit me? And so they submitted me, but somehow I got confused and I ended up going in, and then they were asking me to audition for a judge. And what was so cool about this opportunity was that the auditioning process for the judge's role went on for quite a while. It was like a good 2 weeks, and they saw pretty much every choreographer in Los Angeles. And it was so much fun because we were all waiting outside together, and we were all laughing together, and we all got to they would, pair different people up with each other. And it was just so much fun to like work with your friends that way. And it was this weird random show. They're like ballroom dancing, and they showed us video clips from the UK version of the show, Strictly Come Dancing, or Strictly Come Dancing. And we're like, what is this show? But let's just play, because we didn't really take it that seriously. Because how could you at the time, right? We'd never seen ballroom dancing. But you know what? The moment it aired and they paired me with Bruno and Len, there was and Tom Bergeron as our host back then, there was something so special about watching people do this foreign dance style of Latin and ballroom, right? And the incredible professionals that we had that used to be that were the celeb partners, right? The pros were incredible. Now we've kind of moved into more broader dancing, but back then it was amazing. So it was an amazing opportunity, and I love it. And our show is live every week, and I think people forget that. And like you said, it's like putting on the Girlie Show every night, and it's the same kind of thing behind the scenes on the tour. They put that set up, and then they rip it down the next day. Unbelievable.
You all famously went live during COVID before there were even vaccines. What was it like to do that show during COVID and without a live audience? Because I'm sure it's better having an audience than without.
I have to say it was hard. The performance, going from performing to an auditorium filled with people, and the energy, you were there yourself. It was magical, but then suddenly it was like performing to a cavern.
Right.
And it was scary. I have to say it was scary because it was, before the vaccine, and we didn't quite know what we were doing. We didn't know if distance was enough to keep us safe. But we had great COVID officers. Neha, she's amazing. And they kept us safe. And I felt honored to be a part of bringing people back to TV and giving people joy, because we went through a really rough time before that as a country, as a world. Just all locked down, all uncertain of our own future, losing people left and right, this uncertainty. I think I'm proud that Dancing with the Stars dared to come back on even without an audience. And this year we have a half audience.
Yes.
So hopefully next year.
A standing room only audience.
We have a standing room only audience upstairs. And I'm grateful for them. And I'm grateful to our team who were able to figure out a way to bring us back.
Yeah, I think it works really well. Does Bruno make you laugh constantly throughout that show?
Yes. Bruno, I love that Bruno. Bruno is like my brother. Bruno is like when I was on tour with Madonna, Luca was my brother, right? Like Luca and I had this very special bond, and Bruno is my special bond here at Dancing with the Stars. I go to his house. He cooks me dinner all the time. He makes me laugh.
Do they still commute, Bruno and Len, from the UK?
No, both of them left the UK show to just do our show. And then last year, Len didn't do our show, right? So he took a little hiatus, but now he's back. And he's in rare form.
Yes, he is.
I love him.
I'm curious, how do you get to pick who you sit next to, or were they just like, Carrie Ann, you're sitting next to Len?
I have always sat at the end, and it's a point of contention, because I'm like, you guys, this is the only show where the woman is on the end. Come on, where are your manners? The Brits.
So you had mentioned JoJo, she's on the show, and she's the first same-sex couple to dance on Dancing with the Stars.
Yes.
I thought it was interesting. So Madonna had same-sex couples dancing together on stage back in the 90s. I'm excited that Dancing with the Stars has finally caught up. And I'm curious, do we think we'll ever see two men dancing together on Dancing with the Stars?
I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will at this point. And I was shocked and surprised and kind of impressed that the first same-sex couple was 2 females. I was actually shocked. I thought for sure we would go with 2 men for our very first same-sex couple.
Right.
But I'm sure we're going to see it. It's just a matter of time.
When I saw Johnny Weir on, I was like, oh, it's going to be Johnny. Johnny's totally going to dance. He's going to twist their arm, and he's going to make sure that and I was surprised, but yeah.
I was surprised too.
Yeah, I'm sure it's coming. So I know you can't show favorites on the people who, come into the show. In previous seasons, you must see people dance and know right away they're going to be in the finals.
Well, actually, no. You never know who's going to be in the finals because there's something interesting about our show is that, and we're the only show that does this, and people sometimes forget, Dancing with the Stars, the judges vote. We actually score. We don't just give commentary. All the other shows, they just give commentary. Maybe they choose them for their own team. And then the audience votes, right? And so we never know what the audience vote is. And the audience can vote with their heart, which has nothing to do with the quality of their dance, right? And that's what makes the show, I think, always a perfect match, is we need the audience to vote with their heart because the world needs more of that, I'm rooting for this person. It makes people feel like they can make a difference in somebody's life. They root for the underdog. Look, last year, or was it 2 years ago, an underdog did really well, Bobby Bones.
Yes.
Who, not dancer, still not a dancer, but had an amazing journey and people loved him.
Yeah, like for example, this season, I love Beverly Hills 90210, and I thought, Brian Austin Green's going to be on it with his sweet David Silver moves. He's going to win this thing, hands down. Yeah. Guess not, know? So
I know, you never know.
Yeah, same thing. Mel C getting voted off. I was like, oh my God, what's happening?
That was a bit frustrating. Yeah, and now that we have the new rule where poor Len, and listen, poor Len, I would never, it's a horrible position that he has to be put in every week. If we don't actually give a unanimous vote of 3 votes, then Len has to make the decision.
The tiebreaker,
It's kind of brutal. It's like, not fair.
Pick your favorite child,
Yes, it's really uncomfortable, but he's tough. He can handle it. He's head judge.
So I have a hypothetical for you. So, I'm thinking of Luca doing the tango with Madonna in Evita, and I really love their fancy footwork together. So how do you think Madonna would do if she was a contestant on Dancing with the Stars, especially if she had to do like the tango or the paso doble or something like that?
Okay, I think Madonna would be amazing in the tango, obviously. I think she would also be amazing in the paso. I also think she'd be great in the cha-cha.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I think she could.
The
thing about Madonna is she's such a chameleon, and that is part of what the show is. People forget. Like, you have to learn each style of dancing. They're all very different. The only one dance style I can't see Madonna doing is the jitterbug. I don't know why. I just don't see Madonna doing the jitterbug.
Well, she did it in A League of Their Own.
A League of Their Own, right. With
oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's why one of the reasons Penny Marshall hired her. She said, and she can jitterbug.
Did she really?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Wait, I have to watch that again. I don't remember seeing that part.
Yeah, so I guess we'll have to, just put it out into the universe.
But look, Madonna would be amazing on Dancing with the Stars, and I love because she would answer back to Len.
Oh, totally.
This is also hypothetical. So because Madonna has to be in control of everything she does. Would she be able to collaborate with the choreographer, or is it just the choreographer sets down the rules?
Well, I think more and more it's become more collaborative. Because I think when you're the star and you're competing and it's your name at stake, you want to have a little say. But if they're smart, they would listen to the pros. Because the pros, I mean, look, our ballroom Latin pros are untouchable.
Oh, yeah.
They're phenomenal dancers.
Yes, they're phenomenal. What they do, plus they have to be the coach. I mean, they are the unsung heroes of our show. They work so hard. They choreograph. I think they also provide therapy sessions for their partners. Yeah. It's quite an emotional journey. And right now, we're at the phase where everybody's kind of realizing, oh my God, this is real and this is hard. And I could lose. And it gets really serious right about now. So I love all of our pros and kudos to them. And Madonna would kill it if she was on Dancing with the Stars. I want her to guest judge.
That would be, I would love her on the show in some way, shape, or form.
I want her to perform. Just perform. Oh my God, give us a little Manimax. Just a little.
So we had former contestant Juan Pablo de Pache on the podcast last season.
Juan Pablo.
Who is also a Madonna fan, and he mentioned that he never got to chat a chance to chat Madonna with you. Do contestants ever come up to you and talk Madonna or your days in Madonna dancing?
Or fly girl dancing.
Yeah.
No, you know what? We don't actually get to talk to the contestants.
That's probably
I
why.
see.
Yeah, at all. Like our trailers are on the opposite side of the whole studio lot, and their trailers are way across here, and this is the studio. We never have interactions with them.
Oh, I see.
It's just like court.
It is. There's standards and practices, and it's a big deal. Like, we are not allowed in the auditorium before 5 o'clock, which is when the show goes live.
Well, that's good for people to know, because every now and then I'll watch it and be like, oh, that's one of Len's favorites, you know?
No, we don't get to talk to them. I wish we could talk to them. It's kind of weird because now Amanda Klutz, who was my fellow co-host on The Talk when I was still on it, it's like, it's so weird because I'm like I just mouth words to them, like, how are you?
Like,
you know?
Right.
Yeah, just we don't talk. And I think it's good that way because you can't get attached to them. We have to stay unbiased. You know, we have to stay neutral.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So you have been very open and honest about your struggle with catching COVID and the long recovery process that you endured. You recently started Carrie Ann Conversations, which, as we mentioned at the top of the show, it's an online wellness magazine that aims to help readers live a happier, healthier, and more evolved life. Tell us, what has this journey meant for you? I mean, it's not been an easy road, I assume.
No, I mean, my health struggles they've been difficult, you know, and especially this year, I think everybody can relate more, and maybe more people are. What I love about what's happened this year, despite the loss and all of the extreme duress that we've all been under, and the sadness that we've all endured, and the loneliness and depression and everything that we've all endured, the blessing is that people are really starting to look at their health, right? And that's the same thing with me. So I caught COVID in December. It was brutal. I already have lupus. I have Sjogren's syndrome. I have fibromyalgia. I have a lot of issues. I have spinal stenosis. I'm always in pain. I carry pain with me every day, all day long. I'm always in a state of fatigue all day long. The last year of being in COVID and doing the talk from home and all the pressure and being a dancer, which is, you've spoken to a lot of dancers, I'm sure, we're overachievers, right?
Yeah.
We are just like the type A, right? That want to do it. And we give anything we do, we give with our whole body and soul, because as a dancer, that's how we perform. So even when I'm typing, I'm like typing, you know, like everything I do is full out. So last year, all of that was hard. Then when I caught COVID on top, it just broke my system.
Yeah.
And the recovery has been hard. I just recently got my smell back, and it's probably only still 90%. That was the weirdest part, is smelling all these strange smells. And they say that the part of your brain that registers scent and smelling can also lead to depression when you can't smell. And for me, as a sensual person who feels everything and touches everything, it was really hard to feel so disconnected. So it was hard. So I had an emotional journey for my brain health. I don't want to say mental health because that's got a stigma attached to it, but my brain health, my brain was damaged. And so it's been a process, and I've worked with some incredible doctors. I had 7 MRIs in like a month. It was ridiculous. And I've been working with this great doctor, Dr. Amen, who's been helping me so much. And he's taught me to look at my body in a different way. As a dancer, we often abuse our bodies.
Yeah.
You know, when you're on tour and there's nobody else to come down that pole for you and you get sick, you do it. You know, you get steroids and you get up on that pole and you do it, and you're excited to do it because all a dancer wants is a place to perform, right? So nobody's like pushing us to do it. It's our own free will. I'm performing with Madonna. Whatever you need to do, get me out there, right?
Right.
And I think those years of that kind of work mentality have cost me now as an older woman. At 53, I feel it. But one of the ways that I have found to heal is to help other people. And I'm sure you guys know that because that's what you're doing with this podcast, right? It's like, it's a way to give back. It's a way to connect to others. And so Carrie Ann Conversations is all about me sharing my struggles and stories, and maybe something resonates with somebody because we're all just struggling. We're all trying to figure out how to live a decent life. None of us know how to do it, right? The only way we learn is when we have conversations like this. That's why it's called Carrie Ann Conversations.
Exactly. And sharing this process, you are touching so many people, you know, who can just relate to maybe not all of it, but we all have a common ground, you know.
Yes.
And this is very appreciated.
Thank you. No, thank you for giving me a platform to share it, because it's important. Like even last week with the weather changing, we talked about the weather earlier. The weather changed in LA. I was down in bed for 2 days after we had the Disney and Villain night, 2 nights of Dancing with the Stars. I was like, woo-hoo. I mean, because it's basically like doing a concert tour, right?
Yeah.
Your
Live.
adrenaline works the same way. Yeah.
And then the next day you're like this, oh, Bruno and I called each other. We're like, oh, how are you doing? I don't know. Wrecked.
And did you feel that working with Madonna helped elevate your choreography in any way?
Working with Madonna helped elevate my whole career because her work ethic is unmatched.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are or how hard you work. You don't work as hard as Madonna. And you're definitely not always thinking about what's coming next. And she has that magical gift of sort of knowing where to go. And she sets the trends, right? She's so ahead. Most people that are like good in our business, they're like 5 years ahead of their time. She's more like 10 to 15 years, 10 to 12 years ahead of whatever is coming. Right. And so I always feel for her because I would imagine it's kind of lonely sometimes to be so far ahead and know everything that's coming and show it and share it with the world. And then 10 years later, everybody's doing it.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to see her most recent show, Madam X?
Yes, I watched part of it. I haven't been able to finish watching it, but I love it. It's so powerful the way it starts. I mean, talk about wanting to make a statement. She's always making powerful statements. She makes you think whether you know it or not. You think you're being entertained, but you're actually being educated.
Tony, you want to ask about In Living Color? Sorry, we wanted to make sure we got to Madonna, but we do want to go back in time a little bit and just ask a little bit about In Living Color.
Oh, listen, I can't forget seeing Rosie Perez dancing in Do the Right Thing and thinking, who, what, when, where, and why, you know? And then cut to a year later, and In Living Color premieres, and they're like, Rosie Perez is the choreographer of these girls, and there was that dancing again. How did you score that audition and tell us a little bit about her?
Okay, Rosie's amazing, but actually, this is little known, but there was another choreographer named Carla Earl who was actually the original choreographer of In Living Color when we first started. And she came more from a jazz background, more the world that I was training in. But I have a street background because in Hawaii, I used to go to the clubs, and that's really where I got my chops from. And we debuted with Carla, and then they brought in Rosie because they wanted more of a real street dirty vibe. They wanted the dirty street vibe. And she brought it with her assistant, Arthur Rayner. And what was interesting is because Rosie had no dance training. Zero. She didn't even... No,
instinct.
Zero.
Yeah.
Instinct. And she didn't know how to count to 8. And all dancers, we count to 8. We count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. She'd go 1, 2, go! We'd be like, no. No, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it was actually a really fun experience because I was kind of like the unofficial dance captain. And so I would work with her a lot. And I love her because she didn't know what she was doing. But in a way, because she had no rules, like Madonna, she just kind of did whatever she wanted. She would come up with camera angles that we never saw. She would we're going to cut from here to here. Well, I don't care. That doesn't feel good. We're going to do this and that. And we'd be like, Rosie, what is that step? She goes, I don't care. Just do it. And it was awesome because it was then the Fly Girls had their own signature style, which was kind of street jazz, right? And I really loved that. And that was so much fun to be a Fly Girl. We would work until like 4 a.m, though, because they'd always tape all the comedy bits first, and then we'd go last, and we'd be like, sleeping.
No, and you guys hit it so hard. I mean, I would watch that, and I remember my brother and I would always try to imitate MC Hammer moves, and
I love it.
I can't understand how fast they're going and how are they doing this?
I love that you say how fast because we were dancing very fast.
Yeah, but you know what you did? You brought club and hip hop dancing to primetime television. Yeah. I only saw it on Video Soul on BET before you guys came out, and you kind of inspired a whole generation of suburban kids.
Yeah,
yeah. Thank you. That was really fun. I mean, I really loved being a Fly Girl. It meant a lot, and I also learned how to be a part of a girl community, like a multiracial girl community, which was the Fly Girls. And I think that led me to be able to do the talk because I always felt like the talk was so similar to being a Fly Girl. You know what I mean? It was like me with 4 other women of different backgrounds, kind of just creating moments for people to watch and enjoy and learn from.
Yeah. Just a little slower.
Not
as quick.
Fly Girl was, because Rosie would be like, and do 20 of these, and 20, and then drop, and then get up, and then do 17 of these, and we'd be like, okay.
And you have 10 seconds to do that. So, okay, I'm the resident film geek here, so I have to ask you about Austin Powers and also Showgirls with Kevin Stay, our other friend of the podcast, and then
Kevin,
and
whose
then
birthday
finally,
was just the other day.
yes, and finally, Lord of Illusions with Sebastian and Luca Tomasini,
choreographed by Alex Magno.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where do you want to start? That's a lot.
I mean, Austin Powers. Let's go there. Even though, I mean, that it didn't age well. Let's just say that. You know.
What? I know. I can't really go around saying "fuck you" anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
Although I still do. Yeah, it was. But you know what? Look. The truth is, I grew up in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the character Fukyu, which was a made-up Asian character because it wasn't. They made them look like they were Japanese Harajuku girls, kind of
Exactly,
that. But
yeah.
the Fuk is more like a Korean-sounding name, and so it was just a mishmash, which happens a lot when you're kind of doing representation at the beginning. They kind of don't always get it right, but that's okay. What I did love about it was that it was all in fun. Right. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I may get in trouble for playing that role, but I don't regret it because I thought it was fun. And it look, I don't know how many other Asian characters there were in Austin Power films that had names that you remembered. So at least it put us on the map. Yeah. And then from there, look, education takes time. You have to kind of show people, maybe you don't get it right the first time and then you get it right. But I'm happy they got it the way they did because I had the greatest time. In fact, when we auditioned, me and my friend Diane Mazzota, people used to say we looked a lot alike when we would go to auditions. And we did this little like Bruce Lee karate number to get the part. And it's actually the dance part that got me the job because the dancing made us look more like twins because we choreographed it in a way, right? And so dance has always been sort of like my baseline, and that's what got me that role in that film as well.
Carrie, was that the same choreographer from Showgirls, Marguerite Pomerant-Derricks?
That's Marguerite, my girl. She's like one of my best friends. And she comes over here. Yeah, she lives near me. And so we have like afternoons where we just sit, we walk the dogs. She helps me walk my dogs sometimes when I'm not feeling well. And she comes over and she's such an amazing person. Now she's doing Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She's
love that
incredible.
Show. I actually
it's so
I did background work on Mrs. Maisel this past season. I can't say anything because of an NDA, but let me tell you, it's good. It's really, really good.
Oh, I can't wait.
You tell Marguerite that I love her work. I'm also speaking about striptease. I mean, there's some good dancing in there too.
Oh, yes.
So what was it like on Showgirls? I mean, you were no stranger to dancing.
Okay, this is
natural.
Correct. I had already showed my tatas. But okay, so this is crazy. You're not going to believe this. You know, when I tell my story, it doesn't sound real. Like some of this stuff, I'm like, did that really happen? Okay.
I love it.
So I auditioned for Showgirls, and I was actually cast in the role of Sunny.
Oh.
Right. But when I first auditioned, I was auditioning for Elizabeth Berkley's part.
Yeah, for no
right.
Alone.
But what's crazy is when I went in, they were like, we're talking to Madonna about being Gina Gershon's role. Mm-hmm. So they're like, because I think they had seen the Girlie Show. So that job, I think, got me in to see Showgirls because they're like, we want you and Madonna. That's kind of like one of the pairings we're thinking. And I'm like, what? Oh my God, dream role.
Yeah. I got chills just thinking of that.
We need a reboot. We need a reboot.
Right, because it's kind of like Bye Bye Baby, that kind of love-hate relationship that they had, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of awesome. But obviously I didn't get that role. And then I got the role of Sunny. But then eventually I left that job in the middle because it was mayhem. If you've talked to Kevin Stay, people were falling through the stage. There was, it was a memorable film.
But
it was a bit chaotic. And they didn't quite understand what dancers' needs are, which often is the case. And so they created this beautiful set, but it wasn't safe for the dancers, and dancers were actually falling through the set. It was kind of crazy and got hurt. And so after a few days of that, and since I was cast as the dancer first before they gave me my speaking roles, I just left before we started our speaking roles. And that was a point of contention as well. I fight for rights for dancers. I always have. Yeah. And I was like, it's really not fair that if you'd cast an actress to play my role, you would have had to hire her as an actress from day one, even including the dancing parts. Mm-hmm. But you're taking advantage of me because I'm a dancer. You're going to let me do all the dancing parts first and then upgrade me for the last couple of days for the acting. Right. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to leave. And they were like, I actually heard these words. We're going to blackball you. And I was
looks like it worked.
I was like, I love you so much. Yeah. And I was like, you don't need to blackball me. I'm just a little dancer. Like, what are you worried about? Like, don't worry about it. Yeah. And it was
and those guys really haven't been working in the United States anyway, so it's all right.
But it was an amazing experience. And that's also historical.
Absolutely. No, I'm one of the few people that loves Lord of Illusions, and I love the set pieces. The nightclub scenes are so beautiful. And when I found out that it was you and Luca and Sebastian, I was like, oh my God, all my worlds come together in this one scene. You know?
Yeah, that was a crazy movie. I love that movie. The unitards.
Yes.
I'll always remember that one. The first time I had to wear a unitard in something.
Yeah. Every time someone comes on the show that's associated with Lord of Illusions, I plug it because I want people to go out there and see it. You know?
It was a really good movie. It's kind of dark and sexy, right? Super dark and sexy.
Yes.
And it was awesome to be able to work with my friends like that. Like to be able to work with Luca Tomasini, who I love dearly, and Sebastian and Alex. It was and Lori. I think it was Lori Kenyak was there as well. And it was really fun.
Yeah. So we read the new interview with you that was just published in M Citizen magazine.
Oh, thank you.
You mentioned that you're working on 2 shows. Is there something you can tell us anything about, or what other upcoming?
When is that?
I'm so close to being able to tell. Can I come back and then tell you another time?
Yeah.
Do we get to come back ever?
Yes, of course. That when you can come back is when we designate you a friend of the podcast. So you're already part of that group.
Yay! I get to be a friend. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Yes, no, because I've been developing some shows after I left the talk this year, and I've had some time. And I can tell you this: one show's about helping people, and the other show is super dark and like a live show. A live stage show, because I'm missing the Madonna influence in my life.
Nice.
So that's what's going to happen. And as soon as I can tell you more, I will.
Watch this space.
Yeah. No, I mean, everyone we've spoken to that knows you well, like, Sebastian, Luca, and Alex,
so
and
much.
even Carlton, they all say if you listen to the episodes, they all say at one point, you got to talk to Carrie. You have to talk to Carrie about this. So
I love those guys.
So I'm really happy that we're able to get your take on all these stories.
Yeah.
Thank you. You guys have been so amazing. And thank you for being patient with me, because I know last week I wasn't able to. So.
I mean, it's Carrie Ann Inaba. What are you going to do?
I love you.
Stefan, I think it's time for my favorite part of the podcast.
I think so. So Carrie Ann, everyone gets this as a guest on our show. We do a little thing called the lightning round, which is just meant to be quick, off the top of your head answers. It's on Madonna, so it should be pretty easy. Favorite Madonna song?
Oh, Crazy for You.
Nice. Favorite Madonna video?
Oh, Frozen.
Favorite Madonna tour, and it doesn't have to be the one you worked on.
Girlie Show. It is because I loved it.
Yeah.
Favorite Madonna look, and it can be from a tour, a video, a magazine shoot, in person.
Oh, wow. You know what? I loved her in the whole sex book. That whole look, that whole vibe was just untouchable.
Yeah, and we are actually, I think that we're recording on the day of the 29th anniversary of the release of the sex book.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
Yeah,
That's
I know,
awesome.
We were all, 1 year old when that came?
Yes, we were all just barely babies.
Carrie Ann, before we go, tell everyone where they can find you on social.
Oh, at Carrie Ann Inaba. Right?
And
is that where?
right.
And on my website, you can come to my website too, www.carrieannconversations.com, carrieanninaba.com, or on Instagram at Carrie Ann Inaba. It's all just my name.
Yeah. You guys seriously check out Carrie Ann Conversations. Even if you can't relate to it, there's someone in your life that will, and just pass it forward.
I'm learning from it. Thank you for. I listen to your stories, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to try that. Or, oh, that looks tasty. I think I'm going to have some of that,
Thank you.
I see a self-help book in your future. Let's just put that out to the universe.
Put it out there.
Thank you. There's been book talk, but we'll see. I want to do shows first. So thank you guys. You guys have been amazing. Thanks for having me, and thanks for celebrating Madonna.
This means so much to me and Stefan. So we're very happy that we actually got to speak with you and ask you all these questions that all of our fans want to know the answers to.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I think I've fallen in love with both of you. I love you both.
Thanks. And
thank
next time we're out in LA, we'll definitely try and come to the show.
Please do. Yeah. Please do. I would love it. And then I won't let my guests take your seat.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
Well, everyone, that's our season finale. Yay. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at MLVC Podcast. Give us a 5-star review, like and subscribe to the podcast. Share it with your fellow Madonna friends, or turn someone on to Madonna if they don't know who she is.
Do it.
You can also donate to the podcast at Venmo at MLVC Podcast and become a subscriber of our Patreon program, patron.podbean.com/MLVC Podcast.
Yes. And Carrie Ann, thanks so much again for joining us. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Thank you, guys. I love you.
All right. Until next time, get out there and do your thing.
See ya.